Hey guys, so for those of you who don't know, during my honest review of the movie Kick-Ass, I revealed that I am a gunshot victim. I survived being shot in the head. The reason I brought that up during that review was because I was trying to make a point that as an individual that has survived such an ordeal, it doesn't bother me at all when movies have guns in them or gunplay or any kind of gun violence in them. I am not insulted. I don't get upset with the filmmakers. I don't write letters to them. I don't protest them. And I certainly do not blame any kind of violence in the real world on movies or video games or cartoons or TV shows or comics that have guns in them. But ever since I revealed that in that video, a lot of you have been very respectfully asking me to elaborate on the matter. You guys really want to know what happened to me. And the reason I haven't answered right away is not because it was the most traumatic thing that I've ever gone through. Believe me, I've gone through worse things, believe it or not. But because, from my point of view, it's not that good of a story. But if you guys really want to know, I'm happy to share. So what happened to me was this. I was 12 years old, and as most of you already know, I grew up in a really shitty neighborhood. But, believe it or not, my grandmother lived in an even shittier neighborhood. So it was New Year's Eve, I was 12, and I went to spend New Year's Eve at her home. And she's lived there all her life, and the neighborhood used to be great, but, you know, she lived there, you know, for years and years and years, and it got really bad. And I used to spend all my time at her house, inside the house. I would never go outside. But it was New Year's Eve, and we decided to go out in the porch and count down the new year, okay? So, in that particular neighborhood, and in certain parts of the world, some people, nobody in my family, but some people like to celebrate the new year by taking out their pistol and firing it up in the air. Now, nobody in my family, but somebody on some other street, possibly another block, as soon as the new year struck, they decided to take out their pistol and fire it up in the air in celebration. And I was on my grandmother's porch, and I just happened to be standing on the spot where that bullet came down. The bullet got stuck in my skull. So if my hand right here is my skull, the bullet was just right there in my skull. It never actually made it to my brain. When I got hit, nothing dramatic happened. I didn't go, oh, and hit the ground. Blood didn't splatter everywhere. Nothing like that. I was 12 years old, and it felt like somebody just tapped me on the head like this. So we're counting down the new year, and I felt that tap on my head, and I'm 12 years old, so I'm going, hey, somebody tapped me in the head, who tapped me in the head? And I was just upset. I thought somebody came up behind me and tapped me in the head and ran away or hid. And my uncle, who's a very happy, joking kind of guy, he put his arm around me and was like, nobody tapped you in the head, you know, be quiet, you're being silly, nobody's messing with you, calm down, celebrate the new year. And he ran his fingers through my hair, like, you know, you little scamp, that sort of thing. He ran his fingers through my hair, and he felt the bullet. And like I said, he's a very happy, joking kind of guy, and I just saw the seriousness overtake his face for the first time in my life. As a child, I saw him dead serious, like the color just dropped from his face. And he just turned, and he just rushed me inside, and the rest of my family followed him, and he told my grandma and aunt, we have to take him to the hospital. And I didn't know why. I knew that was something urgent had happened, but I didn't know why. So they rushed me to the hospital, and throughout my childhood, my grandpa was very quiet and very to himself, and I've always heard stories about him being a wild drinking man, but I've always knew him at that point as a very quiet guy. That night is when I saw him be a wild man. My grandpa drove like a maniac to the hospital, and when we got there and they told us that we had to wait, he went nuts. He started screaming and cursing at the top of his lungs, asking them to rush me in. He started throwing chairs in the waiting room. He started banging on the door that led to the back of the hospital until they finally let us in. And then after they checked me out, they just gave me a quick checkup on the hospital. So when I officially found out that I had gotten shot, like I said, it didn't hurt. I had no idea what had happened. And the worst part, and again, I'm 12 years old, the worst part was that they, right there, without asking me, they shaved my head in that spot without asking me. And I didn't notice until I like looked in a mirror and I saw that they had shaved my head, and then that's when I started getting upset and crying and stuff. And they took me to a better, bigger hospital after that, and that's where they operated on me and they took the bullet out, and that was that. Again, not much drama. We were extremely lucky. I guess the only other momentous thing that happened was that there were a lot of other people who had gotten injured that night on New Year's Eve. And when I was waiting to go into the operation room, they put me in this big room full of stretchers. It looked like a freaking triage from the Civil War of people wounded. And I was waiting in this room, and everybody's waiting to go into the operation room. All of a sudden, they bring this stretcher with 2 police officers on either side. And the guy in the stretcher is just crying and screaming and hollering. And he's right next to us, and he is being really loud. And my mom was keeping me company. It was just me and my mom waiting in that area. And my mom finally turns to one of the police officers and asks him, "What the hell's wrong with that guy?" And the policeman goes, "Oh, he tried to get away, so we shot him in the legs." Just like that. And he sees me, and he looks at my mom, he goes, "What's wrong with your boy?" And my mom says, "Oh, he was shot in the head." And the police officer went like this, and he looked at the wounded man that was screaming, and he goes, "Hey, see that boy over there? He got shot in the head. He's not making any noise." And the second the police officer said that, that guy shut the hell up. Now, I imagine that being shot in the legs, the way that guy was far more painful than what I was going through, but it's pretty funny. Yeah, then I got in and out, and I stayed in the hospital for just over a week after that. I had 15 stitches, and that area in my head was just tender for 2, maybe 3 months, even after my hair grew back. But that was it. So how do you survive a bullet to the head? Luck. Stupid luck, dude. Plain and simple. I managed to get a second chance in life, and I'm not going to waste it. So every day of my life, I try hard to do the things that I love, you know, be it filmmaking or, you know, drawing or watching movies or whatever it might be. And again, just to stress the point, in spite of going through something like that, I have nothing against movies with violence or guns or anything like that. Not movies, not video games, not cartoons, not TV shows. People that see something violent happen and then blame it on, you know, entertainment. That's ridiculous. What I do have a problem with, real people that own guns and use them in an irresponsible manner. That's what I have a problem with. And then for them to blame it on a film or a cartoon or something, that's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. That is so beyond pathetic. Okay? So that's my stance as somebody who survived that kind of an ordeal. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for caring so much. Again, I only brought it up in the video to make a point. As somebody who has actually gone through it, I didn't want to come off as somebody who was just talking out of his ass. So, thank you so much. Merry Christmas.